Mike Missanelli Show. It's brought to you by Ferguson HVAC, Lion Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors for equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job. Just visit one of Ferguson's current locations in Beth-Salem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. Well, interesting little tidbit just dropped by Tim McManus with Devontae Smith not seen in the stretching portion of today's practice. Let's bring in the man who covers the Eagles for ESPN.com on the Comcast Business Hotline, Timmy Mack. Hello, Timmy Mack. How you feeling today?
What's up, Mike? Everything's good. How about with you?
Good. All right, so first of all, let's talk about this Devontae situation. What's up?
Yeah, so we were just out there for practice and kind of scanning the field to see who's there and who's not. And a couple of the people that we expected not to be there were, in fact, not. That's Darius Slay and Dallas Goedert. So I don't think they're going to be playing in this game. But then, yeah, I mean, you usually see Devontae Smith right on the edge of the warm-up line there, and he wasn't there. So I checked with an Eagles official as we were walking out of practice and seemed to catch him by surprise, like, oh, Devontae's not out here, so we're still gathering information. No need to panic quite yet, but yes, the portion that was open for practice for us, there was no Smith.
Well, what could that possibly mean, though? Like, he's late, or you didn't want to, like, he's getting something else worked on? Like, what does it mean when you're not in that stretching portion?
Well, it means one of two things. Either he sustained an injury during practice yesterday, and it hadn't come up on the report yet, and this is the day that it would pop up. Or it could just be like a maintenance thing, or, you know, it could be nothing. So I don't want to over-speculate, but just observing what we saw.
Okay. All right, let's look at this game now, because I just don't think Jacksonville could be a strong enough team to come in here and win. And I know some people, including my boy Bill here, thinks it could be a trap game. What do you see here in this spot?
It's definitely feeling a little trappy. It's not a very good team that they're playing. There's no juice. Nobody is really talking like this is a challenge for them, and Dallas is up next. A trip to Dallas. And so those are the makings for a trap game where you're riding high and you got a division opponent on the docket, and then and you're going up against a team that just hasn't really shown much. So, the ingredients are there. I can't say that I've picked up like the Eagles are looking past it or anything like that, but I think that they do have to guard against it, and I think that they need to stay true to form. In other words, if you look at the Jaguars' defensive numbers in particular, Mike, against the pass, like they've allowed 17 touchdown passes already this season. That's tied for the most in the NFL. They're like at the worst or close to the worst in all of those metrics. You just don't want to get carried away and be like, all right, now it's going to be Jalen dropping back 45 times and get out of character that way. As long as they sustain the formula that they've had, they should be able to take care of this.
Yeah, you're right. 31st in the league rating against the pass, 30th in the league yards per attempt against the pass. So Sirianni seems to be more of a button-down guy, letting the run game take over. You think it's possible he could change it up to be influenced by those numbers?
I mean, that's the temptation that you absolutely have to avoid. And I think it goes, honestly, back to something that Jalen Hurts talked about post-game against the Bengals this week, where he said, like, we have to be the team that is dictating the terms. Like, we want to be the imposers. And there was a mentality that also speaks to really the slow starts, I think, of like, let's figure out what the defense is doing, and then we're going to adjust accordingly. And somewhere along the way, post-bye week, I think there was a mentality shift where, it's more like, no, let's us be the imposers here. Let's us do what we do well. And obviously, Mike, what they do well is run the football. And then we saw against Cincinnati that they can build some play action off of that. So I don't expect them to go too wayward, and if they do, it's a mistake.
Timmy, you got to tell me about this newfound maturity with the head coach. It's been 3 weeks since he talked about Mount Union, his brothers, Friday Night Lights, football being shared with family. Like, what is going on here with him?
I guess he's trying to find his groove, right, Mike? Like he entered the year being more reserved, I think, and you heard the owner Jeffrey Lurie during the league meeting saying, yeah, sometimes he can, that can work against him when he gets a little too excitable. And you could tell through the messaging and then through Sirianni's behavior that was intentional. Like they were trying to rein him back in. And then they sort of stumbled out of the gates, and Jalen Hurts and a couple other players like, Nick, just be yourself. We need like the 2022 Nick back. And that backfired in a big way with the whole Cleveland scene. So I think he's now being a little bit more measured in his public approach. Anyway, it doesn't mean he's not still animated behind the scenes. Like the doors fly open after that Bengals to the locker room after that Bengals win, and here comes Sirianni strutting around like somebody screaming at the top of their lungs. Pretty Young Thing by Michael Jackson. Like, who is that? But it was blocked by a partition, so you couldn't see who it was. It was like it's probably a player, whatever. And right around the corner comes Sirianni, screaming at the top of his lungs and clapping his hands. So it's not like he's lost it behind the scenes, but I think it's more of a measured tone publicly.
Yeah, the tone has been noticeably different, and it's throwing me off. There's nothing I can make fun of. It's handicapping me, Timmy.
Well, I mean, Mike, they're also winning.
I know, I get it, but look at me. This is all about me. He's handicapping me. He's taking weapons away from me.
He's not feeding your Sirianni as a clown algorithm. I get it.
He's not. I can't take it. What do you got, Bill?
All right, this Jaguars offense doesn't look like they're going to be able to keep up with the Eagles. But the one thing they haven't been too bad at is giving up sacks. They've only given up 18 this season, which is top 12 in the NFL. But then they went away and they traded their starting left tackle, Cam Robinson, to Minnesota this week. So they're going to have a new starter in there in Walker Little. Do you expect this newfound Eagles pass rush to have a big day?
And also, if you look at the injury report, so Doug Peterson spoke with his reporters earlier today and said that Ezra Cleveland, one of their guards, is going to be out for this game, and then another of their guards is also in the injury report and is iffy. And so it looks like there's going to be some vulnerability on the interior of the offensive line for the Jaguars. And of course, to your point, they trade away some of their left tackle strength there, and so that presents an opportunity for this defense. I mean, I think if we're looking big picture, Bill, about like what could hold this team back, it's still the defensive front and the edge rushers in particular. They've taken advantage of some favorable matchups in recent weeks, and they've won them, and they've looked a lot better. But it's also hard not to look past the fact that Bryce Huff still doesn't look comfortable. Nolan Smith, it's encouraging that he's coming on, but you need to see it against some better competition. But to answer your question, I think yes. I think this is a good opportunity to be able to take advantage of a little bit of a weakened offensive line for Jacksonville and a quarterback that will turn it over every once in a while that you can take advantage of. So they should be able to. Is it fixed? Big picture on this defense. I'm still holding out a little bit of judgment there, but this week they should be able to make some things happen.
All right, this is a question that it really doesn't have an answer, but I just want to get your feel on this. The last 3 games have been really efficient. Last week was a really complete game, which is usually indicative of how good of a team this is. Can we stop here with that game, or did they need to prove a lot more than what we saw last week? Do they have to continue this to be considered the premier team in this division?
So for me, that was the most significant offensive performance I've seen out of them in probably over a year, Mike. The things that people have been screaming about with this offense, like they're so loaded, their offensive line is so good. Like, how are they getting stuck in this vanilla offense and aren't able to do things that other teams seem to be doing somewhat routinely with a high degree of success, like the play action and throwing over the middle? Like, is this a Jalen Hurts problem, running plays under center? Does he just not want to do that? Is it a coaching stubbornness? Like what's happening? We know there's been a lot of friction around that point, both internally and externally, for a number of months now. And to see them execute that, to see them be run heavy and then be committed to play action, for Hurts to be throwing darts over the middle and his passing to be in rhythm, for them to have a huge uptick in under center snaps. It's like, okay, now they've shown us something. Now they've shown that they do have something else in their pocket that they're using to finally get this offense to a place where you think that it can be. So I think it was really encouraging. Of course, they still have to prove that they can consistently do that week over week before we can say definitively that they're, whether it's the best in the division or a bona fide NFC contender. But I thought that was a huge step in the right direction.
Tim, last question has nothing to do with football, but I know you're a basketball man too. You have an opinion on, and you're a Philadelphian. Do you have an opinion on this Embiid situation?
Yes. So number one.
Not even a second. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So number one, like, I feel like the Sixers are botching this. And I don't know, like, everything that's in play behind the scenes, but there's just a lack of them being forthright that is, like, confounding and also not fair to the fan base. And that's really who I think about most is the fan base, because, like, those tickets aren't cheap, man. And you don't know when a star is going to play. Like, this whole Kobe Bryant philosophy of, you know, there's going to be someone in the seats that has never seen me before, so it's my obligation to be on the court and show them something, I guess, no longer exists. So it's kind of a frustrating state of affairs, man. I think the fans deserve better.
Wow, there you go, Bill.
So he agrees
Bill's
with you.
bought in. Bill's bought in. Bill is totally with the organization, saving him. Let's just save him in bubble wrap, and then we'll unveil him in February. And then we'll be really good.
He's exaggerating, Tim.
Yeah,
I said I'm okay with load management. I wish he was ready to start the season. Two different things.
Timmy, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
We'll look forward to your report for Sunday.
All right, boys. See ya.
Tim McManus, ESPN.com. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the Sixers have announced, well, they haven't announced. Keith Pompey is reporting.
Well, Joel announced it.
Oh, Joel announced that Joel Embiid will not be playing tomorrow. So if you have tickets, oofa.
Yeah, and you know what's going to happen next. The next announcement will be he's not making the West Coast trip. So now he will be out until November 10th at the earliest. And we're going to have to deal with another week of Mike Missanelli angry about the Sixers.
Listen, I've made it clear on what's happening here. They are clearly trying to reduce the season for him, and that amounts to consumer fraud. Mike Missanelli Show, 610-632-0975. That's how you get in, and we'll take your calls after this.